Hello. Howdy hey. Hi Joel, how you doing? We're live. We're live, we're back. We're back at it again. I really need to figure out a way to make these countdown title cards, these little intros and outros that people do. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. Once again, hit the like button as usual. Tell your friends that we're live, we're back. We're talking about a little something that we can get into in a while. Hey Cake, how you doing? Um So this is probably going to be when I'm going to be live streaming Tuesdays at 3 because I have Tuesdays off, so this is probably when I'm going to do it. I know this comes close to the last one, which was only Friday, but yeah, there we go. Okay. And yeah, maybe I won't do it always on YouTube. Maybe I'll have some guests in. But for the moment, it's just me. I can't schedule anyone at the moment. But anyway, yes. So hit the like button, send in comments, chat with me. I love to see everything that you have to say, and I love to answer. I'm gonna pull up my little topics here for a second because that's right. First, I got a couple of announcements that I want to make, a couple of little things that I want to talk about, and then we can really get into the subject that I had planned. So yes, first I'm gonna say it once again. I know, I'm terrible, but the Orville video is coming. I'm working on it. Also, there'll be the Lower Decks review coming eventually, but also I have a little Halloween special that I have planned this year. I did one. I think it was last year. I think it was last year. I did a Halloween special, kind of like an audio, kind of. I guess audio drama is a bit of a long way to say it. It's not exactly an audio drama. It was like an audio adventure. You like the last one? That's cool. That's awesome. Well, I'm gonna do a new one. I'm gonna do a new one. I don't know if it's gonna tie into anything like last year's, because last year, for those that no, I won't spoil it if you haven't seen it. But no, last year had a bit of a twist to it. I don't know if I'll give this one a bit of a twist, but I have an idea already. I have the concept for what I want to do. So yeah, hopefully I can put that together and release that on the 31st. The objective would be to release it on the 31st. But yeah, we'll see if I can get that done. So those are the three videos in the works. In the immediate sense, then I also have other races and Star Trek species, sorry, that I want to do, and Star Trek canon and lore explanations that I want to get to. Few people have any propositions or any like suggestions when it comes to species that you want to see covered or topics that you want to see covered. Don't hesitate, just ask. I'll do that. But yeah, what I wanted to talk about today is and this comes from She-Hulk. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about is meta, meta humor, I guess, fourth wall breaking, kind of like self-referential humor, self-referential um, plots and takes and scenes that can exist within the media and the properties that we watch. I love your Star Trek species videos. Thank you. They're good fun to make. They're good fun to make, but they're these species are ever changing now, so you kind of need to update them as they come. But we're not there yet. Yeah. So meta humor, meta stories, I guess. I see that as, I don't know if there's an actual explanation to this. I'll be back for the low decks part of the chat. No worries. Yeah, I don't know if there's like an actual definition for this, but the way I see meta is kind of like fourth wall breaking. It's kind of like very self-referential and kind of self-aware. I guess it's also humor that takes into account the, I guess, current sentiment about uh, what's making the jokes. So take She-Hulk, for example, and I guess this is going to start with a bit of a commentary on She-Hulk. She-Hulk is a show that was very divisive from the get-go. She-Hulk came out, and a lot of people didn't like it. And there are stupid reasons to not like She-Hulk. I'll grant that, but there are also reasons that I think aren't that stupid. And I really didn't like the show. I was really, but I think it's because um I think it's because I have a lot of trouble reconciling how meta She-Hulk is with the rest of the MCU. I have trouble contextualizing the meta humor from She-Hulk with what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is up until this point. Now, Deadpool came out a while back, and Deadpool was very bizarre in terms of like meta humor and how that connected to the greater kind of like X-Men film series. But I don't know, that's the nature of Deadpool. And considering I wasn't invested in the X-Men series as a whole anyway, it didn't really bother me. Um, on the contrary, it was kind of like a breath of fresh air. It was something new. It was something that they were experimenting with. Um, but now that they've announced that Deadpool, or at least Deadpool 3, is going to become a part of the MCU, and so the Deadpool franchise 1 and 2 are retroactively going to, come into the MCU fold, I am now kind of iffy about that. I don't know how well the kind of fourth wall breaking and the kind of meta humor works within the context of the MCU. Like how do we explain that She-Hulk or Deadpool are talking to camera? How do we explain that? I think Loki, in terms of like meta humor, because there isn't really that much meta humor. I just think in terms of like concepts of the way that the universe and reality works, I think that's fine because you don't have to understand everything about how it works, and I think that functions within the MCU. I just don't think that having a character turn and talk to the screen isn't the MCU big enough now to allow these things on the edges? Yes and no. I don't know. How do you feel about the fact that now there are characters within the MCU that know that they are characters within the MCU? I find that bizarre. I think it takes away from the story that it is. I think that you have so many characters, so many iconic characters from so many iconic franchises now that they don't know that they're part of a TV show. They don't know that they're part of a movie. They're just acting as if, this were their reality that they live in. And then all of a sudden you're confronted to this idea, confronted with this concept that no, it is all a movie, it is all a TV show, and some characters are more aware of this than others. It bothers me. But then the MCU is a different thing. The MCU is granted kind of like I don't know, it's a comic book thing in the first place. Yeah, this was all in the comics. People didn't just read those ones. They did. Yeah. Yeah, this was all in the comics. So it's a comic book kind of a concept, I guess, that they're translating onto the screen, which I guess is okay. I'm just kind of iffy about it, I guess, because I haven't seen it up until now. They waited really until Phase 4 to make this a thing, but I have trouble with it. The second thing I have trouble with, and this is why I didn't like She-Hulk, and arguably why I was not the biggest fan of Deadpool at all, because everyone loved Deadpool, and everyone loved Deadpool 2. Deadpool 2 I really struggled with, and She-Hulk I struggled with as well. There comes a point where when you're being meta and when you're being self-referential and you're teasing like other franchises, or you're talking about things that people do all the time, and you still do them, it's not because you're making fun of it and pointing a finger at it that you're not doing it yourself. For example, Deadpool 2 has like a big fight sequence between two fully CG characters, and they put this like dubstep music on it, and Deadpool is continuously talking about, like, he's continuously teasing other movies, and he's making fun of like how AAA films, they like to do this. They're like, why should I? Deadpool's saying this. He says, why should I be invested in like a fight sequence between two CG monsters? And why should I be interested in this? And they're making it all seem more flashy than it actually is by putting dubstep music. And it's like, but you're doing the same thing. And it's not because you're self-aware enough to notice that it's kind of lame and bland, and you're, I guess, self-aware enough to point your finger at it, that you're not doing it. You're still doing it. You know what I mean? It's weird. There was a song by what's she called? The one that sang "Fuck You," Lily Allen. Lily Allen has this song. I forget what it is. Where she's singing about how other songs are kind of terrible. I don't know where I can find it. It was like a whole song, and it was commentary on like where the industry had gone with pop music, and how artists, I think maybe it was female artists, but how artists were treated, and how and what kind of performance they had to put on, what kind of songs they had to sing, what kind of genres and styles they had to go with, what kind of lyrics they had to do. But at the end of the day, instead of making a song, and she used all of the codes and all of the specific factors that make those songs what they are. She integrated them into her song and used all of those elements in her song. So instead of having a song that kind of like comments on what these people are doing, on what the industry is, she has a song that is very meta, a song that is very kind of self-referential, and that embodies all of those things. But then at the end of the day, you're kind of looking at it and you're like, yeah, but your song at the end, in wanting to critique this stuff, has just become this stuff, but worse, because it's not even good enough to be able to correctly emulate what the industry has become. Although maybe I'm getting a bit, too deep with this, because that's just music, but that's how I feel about She-Hulk. She-Hulk, in the same respect as Deadpool 2, they're like, oh, it makes no sense to have all of these characters. I don't want to spoil too much. I'm going to spoil a little bit, but not too much. Oh, it makes no sense to have all of these characters come in the finale. Why are we doing this? And then it's like, I don't know, maybe we should try and rewrite this. Do we not really have a better idea? But then it's like, instead of actually, so the writers of the show, instead of actually coming up with a better idea, and instead of actually giving us a better episode at the end, what they did was they wrote the crap idea, they filmed it, they showed it to us, and then they make a huge ass tangent about that idea being not good. And then they don't come up with a better idea, or they come up with maybe a sort of better idea, but instead of developing it and actually writing an episode about that, they just give us a few last minutes of it. And then in the final twist of irony, they then overshadow their entire show and finale by revealing a new character. So it's really, really weird how they're doing it. It's really bizarre how meta humor and like meta developments within shows are being handled. And in She-Hulk's instance, and in Deadpool 2's, in those particular examples, I really don't think they handle very well. And how this relates to Star Trek, I guess, is I don't want this to start happening in Star Trek. And our link is Mike McMahon. Now, our boy Mike McMahon used to work on Rick and Morty. And Rick and Morty is a very, very, very meta show. It's self-referential. It's referential of like the current state of media. It's referential of its own writing team. Rick and Morty has a tendency of kind of like making fun of all the current memes and trends that are happening online. It even creates memes and trends with like the Szechuan sauce situation. But that's built into the DNA of what Rick and Morty is. And Rick and Morty comes from a place where there is nothing before it. There is no 50 years of prior Rick and Morty. It's not part of like an established cinematic universe. Rick and Morty is its own little thing. It's its own beast at this point, but it was its own show, and it came in on its own. And so all of the meta humor that they can do in that is kind of fine because it doesn't have 6, 7 other shows that have never done this before. It doesn't seem weird. It doesn't seem out of place. On the contrary, when Rick and Morty came up on the scene, seasons 1 and 2, they were absolutely outstanding. Not only for like the meta humor that they were using, but also for like the new sci-fi concepts. It was like that was really a breath of fresh air in the animation landscape and in the science fiction landscape. Push a few years, I guess you move on a few years, we get that train episode. What was that one? Rick and Morty train, the meta train, Rick and Morty meta train, which was like a standout. I think that was in season 4, maybe 5, season 4. There we go. The meta train story. I forget what the hell what the name of the episode was. Never Rick and Morty. I think that was. Okay, so push a few years, and then you get to like season 4, which is not 4 years after the beginning of Rick and Morty, but that kind of episode is absolutely fantastic. It's self-referential in every way. It's very meta and makes fun of pretty much every concept that exists in science fiction, and it uses it in a clever way where like each kind of cabin encapsulates a genre or an episode or a style. It was great. It was fantastic. So I don't know if Mike McMahon was still working on the show at that point. I'd have to look up and see who wrote this episode, but that kind of humor translated into the arrival of Solar Opposites a few years later. And Solar Opposites is very meta. Solar Opposites, they make fun of themselves constantly. Solar Opposites makes fun of its own writing team. It makes fun of sci-fi concepts in general. And it uses the keyword sci-fi. Solar Opposites, the Solar Opposites, as they're now named, the family there, they're always saying, yo, let's do some sci-fi shit. Okay, we're going to do this sci-fi thing. And Rick and Morty do the same thing now. They're like, okay, we're going on a sci-fi adventure, etc., etc. And it works. It works not only because these two separate shows exist within universes by themselves. They don't have like other shows, but also it works because technically speaking, both of them take place on Earth today, in our time. So if I had someone that were to come into this room right now and take me on an adventure in space, in time, seeing aliens, or I don't know, if they were to take me through like a portal to some sort of other dimension, yeah, I would probably call it a sci-fi adventure. It would be science fiction to me. Of course, I mean, it's up for debate because if it were to truly happen in real life, then it would be real, but it would feel like a sci-fi adventure. It would feel like science fiction. But then when you go back to Lower Decks, when you circle back to Lower Decks, and characters start saying the words sci-fi as well, that feels a bit weird. It really does. And of all the things that I love with Lower Decks, these are the kind of little details that I just live with. They don't necessarily sit with me, as well as maybe other people, but I do have trouble sometimes when characters on Lower Decks, Mariner, Boimler, I think all the 4 of them say it. Maybe Tendi not so much, but I think Rutherford says it too. But all of these characters, they're always saying things like, okay, yeah, sci-fi planet, sci-fi adventure, yeah, we got a sci-fi gun. And it's like, why is it considered science fiction? when clearly you've been living it, and other characters in other shows have been living this very real world and very real existence for years and years. So that's my big question, I guess. That's my big topic. Science fiction within Star Trek, and how meta you can make things. Now, there's a different kind of meta that isn't completely world bending or mind bending that Lower Decks, and I think Lower Decks is handling it very, very well. The kind of meta which is, I guess, referencing, uh, I don't know, it's the meta that references how previous films have been done. It's kind of like an inside joke on the format or the form or the identity of Star Trek. What you saying, Joel? The same reason I might call it a Western adventure if it had a big cowboy hat and a horse. I guess. I guess it's like a thematic thing, right? I guess it's a thematic thing. But so I'd like to know what science fiction is within the world of Star Trek. I'd like to know when a character goes to the holodeck and he's looking for he's looking through different genres of new holodeck programs to play. You know, he's got the westerns with the big cowboy hat and the horses. Does he go to does the genre even exist? Science fiction? And if it does exist, what is it? Has science fiction simply become kind of like a subgenre of fantasy at that point? I don't know. That's a whole other thing. Yeah, I think what Lower Decks handles very well is the way that they, for example, with these Crisis Point movies that they make, I think that handles it very well, because what they're doing is they're taking tropes, they're taking ideas that have been kind of utilized within Star Trek for years, and they are putting a twist on them. Also, when they say things like TOS, those original scientists, that's very meta, and I don't think that's world breaking in any sense. I think it just adds a little more context. No, it doesn't add context. What it does is it adds something to the lore. So it adds something to canon, basically, that the characters do, but it also creates a joke that us, the fans, we can laugh at and laugh with. Picard says he doesn't read sci-fi in Picard season 1. Yeah, but that seems like a very Picard thing to do. You know what I mean? I think he doesn't really like the genre, but that makes sense. Like, Picard's more of a historian, I think. So I don't think like science fiction would be like his big thing. He was more of a historian, or I think he would go into Dixon Hill, so detective things and that kind of stuff. Okay, because Eternal, there is always more to imagine than there has been created in reality. There is always more to imagine than there has been created in reality. Yes, I agree. Yes, that's very true. But I don't know how I would feel if we were to apply something that She-Hulk did recently to Star Trek. I don't know if I would feel good about that. So we have the koala in Lower Decks, which is super fun, and that's not meta. It's kind of meta, I guess, because it's a joke that's been taken from real world elements, but it doesn't reference anything else that's happening in Star Trek. It doesn't make fun of a classic Star Trek trope. I mean, the Ascension did, right? But you have the koala. But if Star Trek did something like She-Hulk did with Kevin, I would be very puzzled. Like, if in order to eliminate the threat of the Borg coming back to the Alpha Quadrant, the Alpha and Beta Quadrant, the Cerritos, they were like, okay, we're Earth's last hope. We have to find a way to defend this. And it's like, oh, I have an idea. Why don't we just go and talk to Alex or Gene or whatever? Like, let's go talk to Alex. And so they warp 9 to like an office, and then they arrive at like the CBS planet, and it's the big eye, and it's the CBS logo. And they beam down to like the CBS planet, and they bust in, and they're like, "Yo, Alex," and he's like, "Yes." And like, we've seen him in the show already, which is a fun joke. That's a little Easter egg. But here he's there, and they're like, what are you doing? Why are you letting Mike McMahon, destroy us with the Borg? And then so like this Alex character calls a board meeting. He calls like a writers meeting. He brings in all of the writers, and they're like, nah, this is stupid. Let's just change it. I don't know why we did the Borg. Let's just eliminate them. That's some Monty Python level stuff. Like, all right, let me catch up with these comments. Time travel would still be sci-fi to most people. Yes, I think so. And then a koala. That would be a bit much for Trek. I think it would be too. I don't know where or how to draw that line though. Like, someone just, I guess, has to objectively say or subjectively say, no, this is too much. We can't do that. But that is the equivalent to what She-Hulk did, in my opinion, to the MCU. That's why I think it's really weird that they did that. I don't want to throw all the blame on She-Hulk, though, because technically Deadpool was doing it before. And considering Deadpool is retroactively part of the MCU, it did it first. So, I don't know. But, yeah, I wouldn't want that to happen in Star Trek. I wouldn't want that to happen in Lower Decks. Because I feel like Star Trek and Lower Decks, they will, they're not Rick and Morty. They're not Solar Opposites. I'm very happy that Mike McMahon has an avenue to explore with Solar Opposites where he can do this kind of humor a little more and really like dive into it. She-Hulk comics did it before Deadpool comics. Oh, you teach me that. I didn't know that. I don't know enough about comic books, honestly. I know more about, what's going on TV than in the actual comics. But yeah. So She-Hulk was breaking the fourth wall before Deadpool. Was she the first character to be breaking the fourth wall? Who else broke the fourth wall recently? I think there was Wanda. Wanda in Doctor Strange 2 broke the fourth wall somewhat. She like looks at camera. And that was to like emphasize the horror or the scary element of that film. I wasn't too down with her looking at the camera. I was like, that's okay. That's a bit weird. I get what they're going for, but yeah, that didn't work for me. What's going on here? That's right. Close Enough. I wanted to talk about Close Enough as well. Close Enough seems like meta humor comes up a lot in animation. Close Enough is an animated show that only ran for a couple seasons, 3 maybe, I think, that PJ got me into. Shout out PJ. So I watched that, and it was very, very fun. It's very deranged, like very kind of like, no, it's not deranged. It's unpredictable and out there. It goes in kind of every direction, but it's basically a show about people of, I would assume, my generation, kind of like living in the world that we're living in now. But they go completely off the rails, and they integrate kind of wacky, almost slapstick elements into into the show without necessarily ever saying that it is science fiction or fantasy. It's just sometimes the adventures have become so far-fetched that they have no basis. They're no longer grounded in reality. But it still isn't a science fiction show. It's weird to describe, but it's really, really fun. They do a lot of meta jokes too. But again, these shows, like all of these shows, they live on their own. They don't have to connect with like a greater universe. So it's easier for them. And it's easier for me as an audience member to like accept that. Mike McMahon is a god. I vote for Mike McMahon as Star Trek Wizard. Approved. I don't think She-Hulk was the first but it is regarded as the best. Really? That's interesting. So they really screwed it up with the show. I'm so mean. Um, okay, that's interesting. Well, how would you feel about a character in Star Trek breaking the fourth wall? Is that weird? Would it be appropriate? Would it work better if it were a Q or an Elorian, like a Guinan species, an Elorian breaking the fourth wall? Would that work? Or if I mean, Lower Decks or another show kind of like integrated a new character that has kind of like an omnipotence, kind of like the Q, and they can break the fourth wall. How would you feel about that? Would you feel bizarre about that? Would you need a more kind of like in-depth explanation as to why that's happening? Like, for example, there's Prime Timeline, there's Kelvin Timeline, there's Mirror Universe, there's us. We exist in, and we're like a concurrent, like kind of parallel timeline as well. Would that make more sense? Um, I honestly don't know what to think of it. I honestly don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of it, and I would like it to not do that ever. I think the amount of meta humor and the amount of like self mockery almost that's going on in Lower Decks is sufficient. I think it works very well for the identity of what Lower Decks is. Um, but I don't think we could go any further. Like I'm intrigued to see what they do with that Strange New Worlds thing, that Strange New Worlds crossover. Yeah, I was talking about Monty Python earlier because in Monty Python, and I'm currently rewatching. I'm currently watching for the first time, Flying Circus. But when you look at like Holy Grail, they go and fight the friggin' what's it, the rabbit, and they get chased by the rabbit, and then all of a sudden they go full on meta, where they're like, we don't have the budget to be doing like this thing, and also we ran out of ideas, and so the illustrator that was drawing the rabbit, or the dragon, I think it's the dragon that they're doing, the illustrator that's drawing the dragon, he died, so that's it, end of the dragon fight, moving on. It's like, okay, this is kind of equivalent to what they were doing with She-Hulk with the should I be in CG? No, it costs too much. Stop the CG thing. Yeah. Okay, I think what Lower Decks, Joel says, I think what Lower Decks is doing is great, but they are pushing it about as far as it probably should. I agree. That's my conclusion too. I think Lower Decks are pushing that kind of humor, that kind of angle, just as far as they can. There's a lot of jokes that are really riding that line. But it all depends on context too. So you can do pretty much whatever the hell you want with a holodeck. Or you can do pretty much whatever the hell you want when you have a character explaining and like recounting a story. But yeah, I don't know how I would feel about going full meta within Star Trek. That was my quarrel, and I'm becoming a little worried that eventually we might get there. Although Lower Decks seems to be the only show that's kind of going in that direction, unless they announce like new shows that kind of go in that direction. I'm just curious to know if they're really going to dive too deep into it, and it all depends, I think, on the success of something like the MCU doing it or not. I think the most they could get away with actually was Stan Lee. Stan Lee was fun. In how like kind of meta that was, because Stan Lee, it had become like the joke and the Easter egg. Stan Lee's in pretty much every movie, and then they have this joke where Stan Lee's eventually, I think it was pretty much agreed upon that Stan Lee was the same character in every kind of appearance, because he's the Watcher, was he one of the Watchers? I think it was. That was fine. That was fine because it doesn't completely like break the laws and the rules that your universe has established. All right. What's going on, Joel? Python, Airplane, and Top Secret can be super meta as they are self-contained. You are assuming a slippery slope. which it could be, but nothing says it has to be. No, nothing says it has to be. No, I wouldn't want to assume. I wouldn't want to assume that either. I wouldn't want to assume that they're dangerously going down. I mean, this new season of Lower Decks, if any indication, shows us that that they've found their groove, and what they want to do, and they're quite comfortable playing around in like the current sandbox that they have. They haven't gone too far. They haven't ventured further into this kind of humor. It was just that after seeing the I don't know. I was going to say success, the immense success of She-Hulk. Well, most of the people that I talked to absolutely loved it. I'm kind of an outlier in this, but I've seen people hate on it, and I'm sure there are people that hate on it for dreadful reasons, but there are probably people that don't like it just because they don't. But yeah, no, after seeing one of these shows and the success of Deadpool too, I was wondering, I was a bit scared that maybe we would go into that direction, lean into it too much within Star Trek. How terrifying. How terrifying. I'm trying to think. These other shows, they wouldn't do that. I don't think Discovery would go in that direction. Discovery is kind of self-aware in a different way. Discovery is self-aware but not self-referential. Or Discovery is aware of its audience. And so quite a few of the decisions that are made in terms of like the writing of that show come from like the criticism or the comments of the fans, and it's kind of like a response from the writers or from the creators. So it's kind of, it's not self-aware, but Discovery is a show that is aware of its audience and its audience needs and desires, I think. So that's a bit different. I don't think Discovery would go meta. I mean, Picard's not going to do that. Strange New Worlds. See, Strange New Worlds being episodic, generally speaking, could maybe pull off something like that, like something like the meta train. But it would honestly be a tough sell, and they would really have to, like, I don't know, find a way to make it work on a level that I haven't seen yet. And I'm not saying they couldn't do that. I'm sure they have the talent, and the talent exists somewhere out there in the world to be able to write that. I just don't think that, I don't know, it would be a tough sell. It would really be a tough sell. Meta done from a place of worshipful love, like Lower Decks, is going to be safe, I think. Yes. And that's because most meta, like, it's humor, right? It's meta humor. It's all done for the sake of fun and for the sake of comedy. I haven't really seen any meta kind of drama at this point. Or I haven't seen any meta horror. I guess the concept of meta is comedic. That's why. But yes, no, Lower Decks is everything they do is always coming, from a place of love. Like when they make fun of a scene in a movie, when they make fun of a recurring theme or a recurring event, it is always, out of love. Like I haven't seen a Lower Decks episode outright shit on something that Star Trek does. Especially considering like Mike McMahon himself seems to really be a fan and seems to really be following all of this new Star Trek. Like, I don't know what his personal views are concerning this new era of Star Trek, but he seems to be liking it. From what he's saying publicly, he seems to be quite accepting of like all of these different kind of directions and styles that these shows are going in. So no, I don't think they would ever do anything harmful to the franchise in that respect, or at least I don't think they would do anything intentionally, right? Like, no, they wouldn't do anything intentional. I'm just, yeah. So what do you guys think about that? There's a couple more of you guys watching. Leave a comment. Tell me what you guys think. We know what Joel thinks. There are non-comedic meta comics like Animal Man and Invisibles, both by Grant Morrison. This isn't the main part. That isn't the main part either. In Animal Man and the Invisibles, I've never heard of that. So these are, what, do they break the fourth wall, or do they make fun of like other comic book tropes, or like other comic book stories? Is that what's going on? Oh no, I have heard of that. I have seen that before, I think, Animal Man. I've seen pictures of that, at least, at the very least. That's a famous thing. Invisibles, no, I've never seen that. Never heard of that. Don't let me just talk to myself. Yeah, come on. Accompany Joel. What's going on? They break the fourth wall. Animal Man knows he's a character in a comic. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that would suit or match Star Trek in any way. Honestly, I don't think that could work. I think characters knowing that there are multiple like planes of existence or multiple universes, multiple dimensions out there, that's fine. I don't think that a character breaking the fourth wall would work. What I'm intrigued about is that Strange New Worlds Lower Decks crossover, to be honest. And I'm kind of assuming that they're going to cross over live action with animation, which is kind of meta, I guess. And I think that would be really, really good. I think that would be a great utilization of the style, to actually have like an animated Captain Pike, to have like a live action Boimler, a live action Mariner. I don't know, like an animated number one. I think that would be really, really cool. And also, this is where it gets meta, but this is where I like it. If in that crossover episode they were to animate Spock, so you got two routes you can do this. You can either animate Spock like Lower Decks, and for some reason he sees a picture of himself but animated in the animated series style, and he's puzzled by that. Or, considering there's already precedent for him in animated form, they animate him like the animated series style, and everyone else is animated kind of like Lower Deck style, but he's animated series style, and that's puzzling and troubling to them. That works for me. That kind of meta humor does work for me, because you're paying homage to the original style of the animated series. It's not like world breaking, and you can kind of just joke about it in the same way Worf doesn't joke about how Klingons are different in that Deep Space Nine, TOS crossover. The chronogami in Lower Decks actually seems inspired by an origami time traveling thing in the Invisibles. Oh, really? Jill, I guess I missed it. Boo, boo! Like Boimler says, you kind of missed it. But you can watch it on the replay. It's fine. I thought it might go either way. Lower Decks actors on Strange New Worlds. Yeah. From what I understand, what they have confirmed is an animated Pike, and live action Mariner, live action Boimler. That's what we're getting so far, what we know. So maybe it's a kind of like a mirror universe, kind of like what's that episode called in the original series, where like they switch places in dimensions. I guess then you kind of have to explain. No, you don't have to explain it. That's the thing. You don't explain it on screen why someone is animated and why someone is not. They just carry on as is. I guess where it makes it more confusing, you have to explain it, is my whole thing about like the animated series style. But yeah, come to think of it, you could use one style for Leonard Nimoy, like one animation style for Leonard Nimoy, and one other style for Ethan Peck. Um, hmm. I'm very intrigued to see what they do with that. I think that'll be kind of meta. I kind of hate that they spoiled it. Yeah, I think you spoiled who's becoming what, or spoiled the concept of the episode in general. Um, TS for Spock, new style for Pike. Yeah, I would like that. I would really like that. Yeah, I say this. Don't take this as like confirmation that Pike is going to be animated. I don't know. From what I remember, from what the buzz was about, that's what it was. But that doesn't mean that he's going to be the only character that's going to be crossing over. Like maybe they're going to do other characters as well. Um, I don't know. I don't know what they have planned. I don't know if the episode's going to be longer. If it's going to be like a double feature kind of thing. Maybe like the Cerritos and its crew. Maybe like all the lower decks elements are only going to play a very small part in the episode. Or maybe it's going to be an actual full-fledged kind of like crossover where like two things meet and it's really a 50-50 kind of adventure. I don't know. Spoiled by who's becoming what. I enjoy being surprised because spoilers in season 2 were too much for me. Yeah. There were spoilers for Picard season 2? Try to think. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, the big spoiler was that all the TNG cast were coming back in season 3 that they told us while season 2 was happening. So it was like kind of took away interest from season 2. Honestly, it was like, okay, so whatever. I guess we'll just finish this little side quest and then everyone's coming back next season. That was a bit of a bizarre move, but yeah, no, I get what you mean. I try to stay off the internet as much as possible, but like I'm saying, like this maybe I'm mistaken in what I'm saying here. Oh, the previews of the following episodes were reviewed too much. Yeah, see, I don't watch them. I tune out. I hit that button. I'm gone. I don't want to know. I don't need the previously ons, although wife continuously tells me that the previously ons are something that just exists now and I have to deal with them. Especially considering, we're having like very long format, kind of like serialized stories that last for years. We follow so many series at once. So I guess I kind of understand the point of having it previously on. But then no, the next week on no, I don't watch those. I'm out. I don't want to know. I don't want to know what happens next week. What will happen next week, I will watch it next week. I don't need to know in advance. Although, even the previously ons, you'll notice they spoil the episodes because they want you to remember things that specifically like pertain to the episode that you're watching. So they'll be like, oh, they'll throw you a flashback of like, lore or whatever, and you're like, oh, okay, so lore is going to be in this episode because you spoiled it already. You gave me like a flashback. You gave me like a previously on showing me about this or that or this. They gave you the previously on for like kind of like the Gorn and how that affected what's she called in Strange New Worlds? Khan there? He called La'an. So they give you like a previously on, and it's like, okay, so there's going to be Gorn in this episode because you get a previously on that like directly correlates to the Gorn in her past. So that kind of sucks. Whoa, my goodness, I'm behind. Kirk Thatch's bus punk coming back in Picard season 2 is pretty meta. Yes, that's right. But that still is an Easter egg. It's not world breaking in any way. But yes, that is pretty meta. I agree. The most spoiled show of all time is probably House of the Dragon, but I'm still going to watch the hell out of it. Really? I don't know a single thing. I really select what I watch, like, and what I choose to like read, I guess, on the internet. But also, I have a thing where every time I see like Rings of Power, when I was watching Rings of Power and I was like late a couple days, like every time I would see the word like Lord or Rings or Power, I would just scroll. I don't know. I'm not reading it. I don't want to know. I'm gone. You know what I mean? And so House of the Dragon, I've only seen episode 1 so far. I was waiting until Rings of Power finished, and now I'm gonna go through the first season, but I don't know a single thing. I don't know what's happening at all. I don't know if someone dies. I don't know. I don't know. All I know is there were probably dragons in the show, and I saw a couple in episode 1. But that's it. That's all I know. I stopped watching the previews as well, but then everyone talked about it on Starfleet Boy. Haha. Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know if you recall, but uh, no, I think they carried on talking about them. But when I would be on those Starfleet Boy discussions, I was like, I haven't seen it. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I don't want to know. Um, I, I kind of vaguely remember sometimes I managed to stop them from talking about it, but most times they would carry on. But yeah, no, I don't know. I also think, and this is a slight complaint that we can go on here. I think that previously ons and next time ons take away from the specific identity of the episode. Like the episode is the episode with the credits. That's what the episode is. Like the entire identity of the episode is from when it opens to when the credits end. Um, and if you start putting previously ons in the start and then like next time ons, sometimes before the credits, I'm like, you're taking away from like what the episode is. That's why once you have the well, it's up there, but once you have like the physical media, it's better. Pop it in, watch it beginning to end. That's nice. Joel, I don't care about spoilers. At this point, spoilers are what make me interested in a new show. You remind me of Emergency Awesome in that respect. Emergency Awesome, I think he's called Charlie, is the guy that does, he's got a YouTube channel that talks about all things kind of like comic book and nerdy, that kind of stuff. I can't go on his channel because if I do, any video you're going to watch, you're going to be spoiled a million things before like the films even exist. This is due to basically two things. First of all, his expansive knowledge of like comic books and stories and lore and canon of all of these properties is so massive that he comes to the logical and correct conclusions about what they're going to do in the movies or TV shows even before like they're even kind of like announced to be coming out. And then the second thing is also, he's just he sees, I think he sees a couple episodes maybe in advance, so that kind of stuff. So he kind of knows where things are going as well. So there's like a couple of elements that make it so that like if I want an explanation on something that happens in something, I can probably go there, but I'm best to wait till the end of the show or the end of the season before going and watching it because he'll be talking about things but what I was trying to get at is he doesn't consider anything spoilers in the sense that when news leaks about an actor or a character coming back in a show or a movie, that's the way he kind of like ingests the twists or the news or the reveals, while I or other audience members will wait for the show, and then the show will tell me or reveal, oh, this character is coming back, or this actor has returned to play this different role, or whatever it is. And that's how I get my reveals. That's how I get my twists. Like, oh wow, he gets them differently. See, he gets them coming from the internet and from the news and all of that, and so his experience is different, more expansive. I don't know, but it's different. That's how he experiences kind of like the world of comic books and the world of nerd culture. Hey, Starfleet Boy, you're late, but hey, how you doing? Jill says House of the Dragon is going to be insane, but it will take years to play out, so good luck avoiding spoilers. Oh no, don't worry about it. I'll catch up. I'll be watching season 1 shortly. I had to finish watching Rings of Power, and now I'm probably gonna do like because I'm still watching 12 Monkeys. I'm in my season 2 watch, so I'll probably be doing like one episode of 12 Monkeys, one episode of House of the Dragon. So I'll be there. I'll be there. Don't worry. I won't completely abandon it. Like The Witcher, I abandoned. I know that there's a second season that came out. I forgot that it came out. Right? Like, um, but yeah, I just started watching. Who's read the books? Oh yeah. Okay, Charlie, Emergency Awesome. Yeah, be careful. Be careful. So Emergency Awesome is great. He's fantastic. He's a great guy. He seems like the nicest person in the world, and his videos are excellent. Um, and I used to watch them for Game of Thrones a lot, and I used to watch them for like The Walking Dead back when he did weekly videos for The Walking Dead, because I didn't care about being spoiled things. On the contrary, it really helped me kind of like develop my knowledge of the world in which all of these things were unfolding. But yeah, if you go into like a Marvel Cinematic Universe video by Emergency Awesome, and you think he's gonna tell you like, oh, there's a bit of news about Wakanda Forever, he might just throw out some things that technically aren't even spoilers because they're not even confirmed yet, but he knows. He knows because he's a genius and he knows all this stuff. So you might know what's gonna happen in the film before it happens. No, he doesn't cover Star Trek on the channel. I think he did do one video back in the day for like Discovery when it came out, when it first came back, but no, he doesn't cover Star Trek. I don't know if he covers specifically things that he's interested in or things that do numbers or if it's like a mix of both. I don't know. He used to literally do videos, like weekly videos for like all of the DC for the Arrowverse. And he used to do like weekly videos for like the trailers for the episode for the Arrowverse. So like you can't be what? It's probably just because he was hype about it. I don't know. Another 12 Monkeys fan. Woo! Uh when are we doing our chats? When are we doing our chats, Starfleet boy? We could do that actually. Next Tuesday. We could do a 12 Monkeys chat, like a season 1 chat. That could be good. We'll figure it out. Unless we want to do that other thing, we could do that other thing. We'll see. But yeah, 12 Monkeys is great. I'm not powering through it as much as Starfleet Boy. We haven't talked about it much, actually, him and me. We've talked about it, well, quite a lot, but not in detail because we do want to keep our thoughts for the show, for the online chat. So we'll get into that eventually. Hey, Ruben. Thank you. How you doing? I forgot we need to wait for Joel. Oh, for the 12 Monkeys. Everyone's watching it. I can't watch the chats because it's impossible for those who have seen later seasons to avoid injecting. That's okay. We can find a way to talk about season 1 without spoiling like the later seasons. Especially in like 12 Monkeys is a time traveling show, so I'm assuming here that like seasons 3 and 4 will like massively play into like seasons 1 and 2. Like I'm assuming. Yeah. No, we'll find a way. We'll find it. You're listening while gardening. God damn, it's like 0 out. Well, here, no place. Probably not, but yeah, no, we'll find a way to avoid the spoilers in the chats when we do that. Everyone's joined. Everyone's joined now. Everyone's joined and watching, and I've already talked about my meta, my little meta. To conclude this whole thing, for those that missed the chat early on, basically what I was saying is I was a little confused as the way by the way She-Hulk handled its finale. It's a divisive kind of show, I guess. It's also a divisive episode. I found that there was a certain irony to the way that the show was making fun of how shows finish, like how other shows within like the MCU and Disney Plus decide to end their stuff, and ultimately She-Hulk kind of just did that by still pointing a finger at itself. I found it a bit weird. And I was just complaining and bitching about how I didn't want that to happen to Star Trek. Please, Um, I don't want Star Trek to get too meta, or I don't want Star Trek to get more meta than what Lower Decks is already. I think Lower Decks is balancing like the meta, kind of self-referential, almost sometimes self like deprecating comedy and jokes, and I think it's handling it quite well. And it's balancing that with the identity of Star Trek and the identity of the universe as a whole. And I just don't want it to go too far. And this isn't a dunk on Lower Decks. It's just that it just so happens that Lower Decks is the most meta show that we have. But no, it's written by geniuses, by as people say in the chat, Mike McMahon the God. So I'm sure they'll be able to handle it quite well. Yeah, that's it. That's what it was. That was my discussion for today. Thank you so much for joining. Everyone, hit the like button. Tell everyone that these videos exist. You're absolutely the best. Next Tuesday, I'll be back talking about something else. I'm going to try and make these like a bit of a weekly thing. Because I love chatting to you guys. I love chatting with you guys. I always have things to say. I always have things to share. I don't need to keep them Star Trek specific, although, you know, as Trekkies, we always relate things back to Star Trek anyway. Uh, this whole Deadpool, Solar Opposites, Lower Decks thing, yeah, it was all connected to Lower Decks and to Star Trek that way. But yeah, if you guys want any guests, I'll bring some guests on. Though I have to do that through StreamYard, so it's a bit different. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. You're absolutely the best. Let me know if I should carry on these things weekly. I think it's a good way to make this channel a little more active. Don't worry though, I haven't completely stopped making real videos. I will carry on making those real videos. As I said earlier, and as I've said multiple times already, the Orville and Lower Decks reviews are coming, but also I will be doing a Halloween special. I will be doing that. I already did one. Go check out the Halloween special. That's already on the channel. I did that last year. It was a bit of an audio adventure. It's very short. It's very short form. But I'll be doing one this year as well. You know, I've started writing down my ideas, but I don't write a script. Ha! That's the twist. Last year's was completely improvised. I only had one idea and I just ran with it. This time I don't specifically have the idea for like the reveal or the twist, because I don't know if there will be a reveal or a twist, but I do have like kind of I guess kind of concepts rolling around, so I've started writing down a couple of notes. Hopefully I'm creative enough to yet again pull it off in like a in an improv way. When I say improv, don't worry about it. There's a lot of editing that goes in. I just ramble and then I cut things out and I make it all acceptable to listen to, and it doesn't last 36 minutes. But yeah, Halloween special coming soon. Thank you all so much for watching. You're the best. Meta Star Trek, yes or no? But Lower Decks forever. Absolutely. Yay, Lower Decks. Yay, Mike McMahon. That's it. I love you all. See you soon.